We are talking Spider-Man Far From Home, once again directed by Jon Watts, starring Tom Holland, Samuel L. Jackson and Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. If you know Mysterio from the trailers, obviously he seems to be a new hero on the block. I am quite familiar with Mysterio from the comics. Anyway, I'm not going to really talk about too much in the plot, so this is going to be a non-spoiler review. So it focuses on Spider-Man post-Thanos snap, and the world around it, and it does deal with some of the issues from the Endgame kind of like finale. So it does give you this kind of world, and also addresses some of the kind of the questions that you might have from that movie, which was quite interesting. So rather than kind of go for the plot, I am just going to kind of talk about what I liked about this movie and then what I do not like. So what do I like, first of all? For one thing, I liked a lot of callbacks to the Marvel Universe as a whole. There is 2 post-credit scenes, one of which is very much kind of like is to do with the kind of the larger Marvel Universe. But there's also lots of very small callbacks with kind of like smaller characters who you may have seen throughout the kind of the Marvel kind of like story, so to speak. And yeah, it had some fantastic kind of callbacks to certain events, which I thought was fantastic. Tom Holland is what continues to be the best Spider-Man, I feel. Wonderful, wonderful representation of a very likeable Peter Parker. His relationship with Mary Jane, or MJ, now played by Zendaya, I thought was fantastic. They have such good chemistry, and they have this weird kind of like awkward kind of romance. Which is a very different MJ to what we've seen in the comics, but I thought they had such a great chemistry. Really, really good. I really enjoyed their kind of scenes. The movie also takes, without kind of saying anything about the plot really, if you've seen the trailers, I'd say the movie actually has really a whole other storyline, which kind of takes the movie in a different direction. One that I was somewhat expecting, to be honest. But yeah, it doesn't really kind of hint at it in the trailers, which also I thought was very, very good. The villain of the piece is I would say something fairly unique and has a different kind of flavour to a lot of villains that we've kind of seen in kind of other sort of superhero movies, including Spider-Man. I thought the Mysterio, the way he was kind of represented on screen was very good. I really enjoyed the kind of the effects with this movie. There is some fantastic action sequences. The CGI looks all very good. What don't I like? Two real things stand out for me. One of them is a fairly large thing, and that to me is the humour. Now, Marvel films are renowned for their humour, but to me, the first half of this movie seems so juvenile. Now, I'm not talking, obviously Peter Parker is a young guy. I'm not talking about, you know, him being a kind of a young character, but just the general humour seems so kind of like over the top. For example, if you watch the movie, look at the kind of the 2 teachers that go on this kind of like this European trip. They do not seem like real people. They seem like cartoon characters from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Is the best way I can describe it. For an example here. They do not seem like real human beings that exist in the Marvel Universe that we have seen it in, thus far. And it isn't just kind of just limited to them. There's just some very kind of like silly humour to the point where it almost, the first half of this movie becomes slapstick. Now, certain characters act like you kind of have never seen them before and do not seem to be as quite as developed, shall we say, as we have seen them kind of like before. Now, with one of these characters, there is a kind of a reason for this, which will kind of, I won't spoil for you, but nonetheless, yeah, it just seems to be dumbed down a lot. At least the first half. Now, the second half of this movie, I would say the status quo changes, and it kind of like there's still humorous elements to this, but I feel like the kind of the emotional weight kind of grows with that kind of second half. And the movie almost kind of, go back to the humour, kind of almost has shots at kind of the Marvel Universe as a whole. Now, bear in mind this is a Sony film rather than a kind of a straight kind of Marvel Disney film, but obviously Kevin Feige and all that kind of have control of it. But nonetheless, I did feel it almost kind of joked a little bit about the Marvel Universe as a whole, some of which I felt didn't work. There are some jokes that do work, but I felt the humour was just a little bit too juvenile and was not sophisticated at all. The other thing that really kind of ground this movie to a halt for me, there's a scene here involving Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, where he delivers this massive exposition bomb, and it is so grindingly kind of like just kind of like, oh, it's such a kind of like a huge, like, just kind of exposition dump. It just feels so unnatural. And to be honest with you, although I like Mysterio, is actually one of my favourite Spider-Man villains in the comics, and like Vulture, I really did not like. But in the movie universe, I really like the Vulture, but I'm less keen on Mysterio here because I don't know if I really like Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal, if I'm honest. He just seems a little bit goofy, if you ask me. Again, the second half of the movie kind of changes the status quo, but I just think when you think of the intensity of that Vulture scene in the car, there's nothing like that in this film. Really, I don't think. There's nothing like that kind of level of kind of like acting and intensity. He's fun, but no, I just don't know. I just wasn't quite kind of like as in love with the kind of Mysterious I wanted to be, and I wasn't blown away like I was with the Vulture. It was a villain I really wasn't so keen on that I ended up really liking. It was almost the opposite, in fact. But overall, this is still an above-average Marvel film, I would say. But I do not think it is as good as Homecoming. I gave Homecoming an 8 out of 10. I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. You know, Tom Holland really is the kind of like the glue of this. I think he's so good in this role. So I still really enjoy kind of watching his adventures. And the post-credit scene. The kind of the first one I thought leads to an absolute cliffhanger that I am thrilled to kind of see where it kind of goes next. People are making a big deal about the second post-credit scene. I actually think that's more of a throwaway thing than people are thinking, but we'll see. Anyway, 7 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.